again. This is Dr. Frank Chase Jr. back with you concerning this great subject called tithing. And we want to continue to discuss some of the information that we had discussed earlier in part 6 about did Israel use money? And we want to continue that study with giving you some more scriptures where Israel was well familiar with money. And we'll be right back in just a moment. Hello again. We're back. Now let's begin right in the verse of Genesis chapter 47. And we're going to find another place in the scripture where Israel was dealing with money. Now, I know people have told you in the past that Israel was an agricultural society, in which it was, and that money was not prevalent during that time. Well, we have been reading some scriptures to let you know that money was involved in Israel, but we know that every time we read a scripture concerning money, it is not requested as a tithe from God. So let's look at Genesis 47. Genesis 47 clearly states money was in use. Verse 14, and Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the corn which they bought, and Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's house. And when money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came unto Joseph and said, give us bread, for why should we die in thy presence? For the money faileth. And Joseph said, give your cattle, and I will give you for your cattle if money fail. And they brought their cattle unto Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for horses, and for the flocks, and for cattle of the herds, and for the asses, and he fed them with bread for all their cattle for that year. Now we know for sure that there was a famine going on, and as we can see, Joseph was well aware of money in Egypt. So to say that there was no money in Egypt or no money in the Old Testament, it was not in use, is preposterous. If Israel was in slavery in Egypt for 300 years, then we know that they learned all of the Egyptian culture, including that of money. And as you can see, money was well versed in the scripture. And as I told you, and I need to tell you this now, that there are 113 verses in the Old Testament concerning money. And if you look up each one of those verses, if you get your strong concordance, you will find that in each one of those verses, if you read each one, you will not find anywhere where God commanded money to be tithed. And we know that the word money is the Hebrew word kapish, which is silver, which is interpreted money. So we know for sure that money was not tithed in the Old Testament. Yes, money was used in a lot of places. Money was used as offerings, and it was used as trespass offerings and other things that money was used for. And when you look up each verse concerning money, you will find in the Old Testament that Israel used money for many different situations, but it was not used for a tithe. And as we know, a tithe is simply a 10th part, and the tithe consisted of, the contents is food, crops, cattle, herds, and flocks. That's what a tithe is. That's where it came from. And I'm going to share with you some additional scriptures on this. And guess what? You're going to be amazed at what Israel and how well Israel was familiar with money. Let's take a break here and we'll be right back. Let's look at another place in the scripture where money was being used in the Old Testament. And let's go to 2 Chronicles chapter 24, and we're going to see another instance where money is being used. Let's read starting at verse 6 of 2 Chronicles chapter 24. And the king called for Joadiah the chief and said unto him, Why hast thou not required of the Levites to bring in out of Judah and out of Jerusalem the collection according to the commandment of Moses, the servant of the Lord, and of the congregation of Israel for the tabernacle of witness? What is the collection? Are the Levites collecting a tithe here? Or is something else occurring? What is the commandment of the Lord? What is the commandment that they are referencing here? Well, we're going to find out exactly what this commandment was, and we're going to find out this commandment was not a tithe. It was something totally different, because we do know the Levites collect the tithe. But the Levites had another responsibility in Israel, and this was involving money, and we're going to find out exactly what it is. Let's go to Exodus chapter 30, and we're going to see exactly what went on. Exodus chapter 30 is going to tell us exactly what went on here. If we go to Exodus 30, we'll see exactly what is happening. Now, Exodus 30 tells you exactly what was going on. Let's start at verse 12. And it says, let me start at verse 11 first. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, When thou takest the sum of the children of Israel after their number, then shall they give every man a ransom for his soul unto the Lord, when thou numberest them, that there be no plague among them when thou numberest them. This they shall give every one that passes among them that are numbered, half a shekel after the shekel of the sanctuary. A shekel is 20 gerahs, and half shekel shall be the offering of the Lord. Everyone that passes among them that are numbered from 20 years old and above shall give an offering unto the Lord. An offering unto the Lord. They were taking a census, and everyone 20 years and older shall give an offering unto the Lord. And he specified the amount of the offering. This is not a tithe. This was a 20, based on the gerah system of that time. And I'll let you do your own research, or maybe I'll come back in another video and tell you exactly how much money that possibly could have been. And everyone that passes under the rod that is numbered with them 20 years old and above shall give an offering unto the Lord. The rich shall not give more, and the poor shall not give less than a half shekel when they give an offering unto the Lord to make an atonement for their souls. And look at verse 16 here. It is amazing. It is fascinating. And thou shalt take the atonement money of the children of Israel, and thou shalt appoint it for the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, that it may be a memorial unto the children of Israel before the Lord, to make an atonement for your souls. This is atonement money. Atonement money. And it went for the service of the tabernacle. As you can see, this was another way that the temple was supported. The tithe supported the Levites in the form of food. In this particular instance, money was asked for during the census, and everyone had to pay some redemption money, some redemption money, as we can see here in verse 16, atonement money. So this is how the tabernacle, the temple, got supported, with atonement money. And everyone had to pay. The poor and the rich paid the same amount of atonement money. Now, you may think that this is how tithing is argued. Everyone pays the same amount, 10%. But if you look at what that amount of money was, it may not have been as much, and it could have been that it was enough, it was sufficient enough that everyone who paid, whether the poor or rich, were not being overly burdened, because everyone could do it. And this is the key when you're trying to study how money was used in the text. And so now we see for sure money was used by Israel at the earliest stages of their history. And I'm going to go to another chapter and another verse to show you even more instances where money is being used.